Well, welcome again. My name is Dave Dennis, and this is Creative Arts Network. For those of you who don't know what Creative Arts Network does, we are a local arts and cultural organization dedicated to reinvigorating arts and culture in Fall River and the region. So since the last time we met, lots of activities have been going on in and around the city of Fall River. We sponsored many programs, arts and cultural programs. So let me just recap what we've done. It was a very busy weekend for arts and culture here in the city of Fall River. On Friday night, Creative Arts Network sponsored a sunset cruise right here in Montauk Bay with the Block Island Ferry. Block Island Ferry left the terminal at about 6 o'clock, returned at 9 o'clock. There was music and food, and it was a wonderful evening enjoyed by more than 125 people. On Saturday, in spite of some of the inclement weather, we had a terrific art and music festival on the waterfront. We had several bands that played throughout the day. We had crafters, artists, food trucks on the waterfront from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 o'clock at night. It was a great program. It was all free. It was family friendly and provided a lot of entertainment options for the people of the city of Fall River and the region. And we continue with our Pocket Park music program, which of course happens every Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock out from the Cherry and Webb's building right here in the city of Fall River. We have sponsored several musicians that come out and play for about an hour. And they go out on Main Street and provide everybody in the area with some music. So we've had a lot of programs. It's been very busy for us. And today we have a very special guest. And so if anybody has had anything to do with arts and culture in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, there is one organization that invariably you're going to come in contact with, because if you haven't, you should, and that's the Mass Cultural Council. And today my special guest is Meri Jenkins, who is the program manager at MCC, as they like to be called. They provide a lot of technical assistance as well as some funding for arts and cultural organizations throughout the Commonwealth. We have worked with them for the last several years. What Meri's going to talk to about today is a very interesting opportunity for the city of Fall River, and that is the establishment of a cultural district. Now, for those of you who don't know what a cultural district is, I certainly didn't several years ago. It's probably been about 5 or 6 years, I think, since we talked. So people might wonder what's taken so long. Well, as with most things, the timing has to be right. And for those of our viewers who are familiar with Fall River, the waterfront has been undergoing a revitalization for the last several years. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has spent somewhere around $750 million on a accelerated bridge program, which has changed the infrastructure on the waterfront here in Fall River. Also, we have another new bridge north of us, and soon to happen another big project, the lowering of Route 79, in addition to hopefully train service coming in the next several years. So right now, I think is a very, very good time for the cultural district to happen in the city of Fall River. And I've asked Meri to come on today and talk about what the process is, what a cultural district is, what it means to a city, how that program has been applied across the Commonwealth and then locally on the South Coast, and now what it will mean to Fall River. So the timeline, the process, and so really what is a cultural district. So Meri, why don't you educate us?
Hi, thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me back here to Fall River. It's lovely to be back here.
Oh, it's always nice to have you down here.
So I first came to Fall River. I've been at the Mass Cultural Council for almost 20 years. And we started working on the idea that arts and culture and economic development went hand in hand. It was a way to think about spurring and fostering the use of cultural assets as an economic development tool in our cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth.
So it's really all about arts, culture, and tourism.
Absolutely. Right. And also providing opportunities for residents to be able to participate in arts and culture as well. So the Cultural District Programme was launched 6 years ago. there are now 44 designated cultural districts in Massachusetts.
Can you just tell us just some of the districts? I mean, some of the ones, if you want to start locally and sort of work out.
Yeah, so the closest to Fall River is in New Bedford.
And how long have they had their cultural district?
They've had their cultural district for 4 years at this point, and it's been going well. They positioned themselves around a combination of they're a city of 94,000 people who
almost like Florida, but we're about 89,000. So
exactly. So you're very similar in size and
demographics too.
Exactly. You also have
history.
Waterfronts. You have extraordinary histories here. These are stories that to be told for people who have relocated to Fall River, who've lived here all the time, who can be re-engaged with the assets that are here, the cultural assets that are here, and also for the people who don't know Fall River well and would come back here if they knew something was happening, like the activity that you've been describing this morning.
Right.
So a cultural district is essentially a walkable, compact area of a city that has a density of cultural assets and offerings. That could be festivals, it could be art classes, it could be a theatre, it could be concerts, both indoor, outdoor, it could be a history museum, it could be an arts centre, you name it. It's sort of in that configuration. There needs to be some cultural activity happening, either on the street or inside cultural buildings.
So like we were talking earlier, it's sort of this concept of the tight urban center, and the tight urban center in this case is really this cultural district.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you get this sort of, tight area where people, sort of congregate, and so this critical mass that happens.
Yes, and in most cities, actually, it's usually the downtown, but not always. It could be a place where people naturally gather, or there are very specific assets within a particular location that, in and of themselves, attract people to them. So here on the waterfront, there's the Narrow Arts Centre, the Maritime Museum, the Battleship, the Heritage State Park. Those together, they stand alone as individual organizations, but together they become a very powerful force to draw people into the city to spend money here, both not just in those organizations, but also in the restaurants and other businesses that stand to profit because there's cultural activity here. And we like that combination of activity. Essentially, it's about getting people to come to Fall River, stay as long as possible, do as much as possible while they're here, and spend money.
Right. And of course, when we talk about the city of Fall River, we talk about the waterfront, we talk about tourism and arts and culture and it being an asset. We have an unspoken asset that some people don't recognize all the time, and it's called the Bragger Bridge. What people don't realize is, and a lot of the assets you were just talking about, or resources, are actually underneath the Bragger Bridge. Well, that bridge, actually, on average, there's about 75,000 cars a day that go over that bridge. So most communities would be very happy to have a Bragger Bridge that brings 75,000 cars right through the center of the bridge, right through the center of the city. Now some people would argue, well, it's been an interruption, it cuts the city in half, and that in part is true. But of course the advantage is that we have traffic, that all we have to do is get some of those cars off that bridge, and now with of course the accelerated bridge program and the infrastructure all completed on the waterfront, it's much more accessible, it's easy to get in and out of, and so part of our responsibility and our job now is to get some of those folks off that Bragger Bridge heading down to the Cape and on vacation. If we just got 10% of those people to come in and spend a couple $100 on their way down to Cape Cod or coming back from Cape Cod with the average family of 4, that would be a mini economic boom for the city of Fall River.
Absolutely. So what you're talking about there is being able to draw people into the city and then actually provide a really intentional, cohesive way of them being able to participate in the things that are on offer here. Right. So you're absolutely right. When we first started working with the town of Concord, which attracts high tourism throughout the summer months and beyond. A lot of history in Concord. What we discovered at Walden Pond was 750,000 people go to Walden Pond every year.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So it's a really hot spot in the state. Yeah. There is no information at Walden Pond, or there wasn't information before they were designated as a cultural district about the downtown, which is 3 minutes drive away.
Now, I think for our listeners, that's an important concept. You know, we have the same issue here in the city of Florida. We have a lot of assets on the waterfront, but of course, like every other area, it's really all about marketing. It's all about branding an area, and so we've never had an opportunity to be able to do that. On a sustainable sort of level. The Narrows does their thing, and the Battleship, of course, does their thing. But the cultural district sort of knits all these assets together.
They do, and we have a partnership.
A much bigger platform.
It does, and we have a partnership with the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. Yes. And all of the cultural districts, the designated cultural districts, are promoted by MOT for free. So it costs the city no money whatsoever to participate in that program.
Now, just for our listeners, now that normally wouldn't happen unless there was a designated cultural district in the city or town.
Yes.
And that's one of the really big advantages of having a designated cultural district.
Yes. And the other advantage is written into the legislation that established the Cultural District Initiative and gave us oversight and management of it, was language that says that other state agencies must adopt this as a strategy and adapt their programs and services, so that where you have a concentrated district, it's an opportunity for a city to open up a conversation with other state departments to ask whether or not there are services that could be provided to some of the businesses or other development efforts that are underway within a community.
So would I be wrong in saying that the designation of a cultural district in a community creates a legal obligation for some of these state agencies to assist local cities and towns?
It certainly provides an opportunity for the city to leverage the relationship with state agencies, and we've seen that happen in a number of different ways. In the town of Barnstable, the village of Barnstable it's a historic,
we know like
it's the King's
area.
Exactly, the Hyannis area, not very far from here. They have the King's Highway runs through the village, and they had wanted for some time to be able to get rid of all the wires and along the course of the sort of village footprint. And with the designation in place, they went back to the various people they needed to convince that this needed to be done.
And these are the town officials.
Yes, that's right. And they've done it. They've taken out those wires, so that it's improving the look and feel of the place and building upon what's already there.
Yeah, and we have, of course, the waterfront in the city of Fall River has been sort of being redeveloped and revitalized for a number of years. We have lots of, we've talked about the assets that are down there, but one of the things that hasn't happened over the years, I sit on a group called the Battleship Waterfront Committee. It's sort of an informal group of local leaders, community leaders that get together. We've been doing this now for about 6 months, once a month. And many of you you'll meet later on today. And the intent is to begin to come up with a strategy to create some type of cooperative program or arrangement where all these assets on the waterfront begin to work together.
Absolutely, and that's a key component to a successful cultural district, and it's in fact a requirement of the program. There must be a partnership involving stakeholders in the district that come together to determine some strategies and goals going over the 5-year period of the designation.
Now, is that something that Mass Cultural Council helps with? Or
yes.
Do they provide some technical guidance on how that happens?
Yes, we do. So we're involved in communities every step of the way. We designate communities for them to be successful. So putting your best foot forward is really what we want to have happen. What you're describing about that kind of effort and that kind of collaboration is a way for organizations who operate as standalone organizations to come together to create the kind of linkage that is likely to bring people here and have them stay longer. Yeah. What we've seen, we measure 2 impact points for all of the districts. One is visitation. What has the designation increased visitation? Is the effort of the cultural district increasing visitation, the partnership that has come together around it. And across the board, we ask for all those numbers, we put them together in the aggregate, we put them all together, and we've seen a 15% increase in visitation. That translates into
which is really
dollars.
a pretty big number when
it's
you,
a pretty
when
big
you
number.
Connect that with what
Exactly.
somebody with plus 15% would spend.
Yes.
So if we think of 15% of, say 75,000, and then attach say it's $200 on average a visit, that's a significant amount of money.
It is.
Especially for a city like Fall River.
Right.
So I was, my wife and I went to an event last week or the week before up in Plymouth, sponsored by MCC, and met some nice people up there. And I know they've been designated a cultural district.
Yes.
So explain, if we could, just to our viewers very briefly, what's the process, and you, maybe using Plymouth as an example, what that has meant to them, because I think they've done it fairly recently.
Yes, they did. They've only been designated for a couple of years. For Plymouth, for some of our communities, they draw tourists anyway. So you might think, well, why bother?
No, we don't have a Plymouth Rock here.
Yes, but you have a lot of other things besides. You have a great restaurant district that is authentic to the population that located here in Fall River, which is second to none in the state in terms of the Portuguese backdrop here. The combination of Battleship, the Narrows, the Maritime Centre, the story of Fall River is authentic and real, and that's key to get at here. And it gives a great way for people to kind of get engaged in that story, because there are people living here. Those 89,000 people also looking for things to do. And there's plenty of opportunity to celebrate the fact that they do live here, and this is a great place to live. One of the things that we also have been committed to is many of our communities have reputations that linger on far too long. There's a negative perception of the place, and it's hard to kind of shift in the minds of the people that live in a place that somehow or another this is a place that gets overlooked. There's nothing doing here.
And it's interesting that you say that, because certainly a lot of the old mill cities have had the similar challenges.
Yes.
And it's a challenge that, unfortunately, and wrongfully, I think, and unfairly, that Fall River has had. Some of the city, Lowell, Lawrence, a lot of the old mill cities have had those challenges, and yet, at least I can speak certainly for Fall River, there are a lot of assets here, and there are a lot of resources here, and a lot of things for people to see. But again, the brand is sort of, as people now talk about it, we used to say the reputation, now it's the brand of these cities, and in particular Fall River, has to change. And we need a mechanism to do that, and this certainly gives us one of the opportunities that a city like Fall River can take advantage of.
Right, and the feedback we've gotten from other our cities and towns is that this has been a very positive move on their part, and that it's brought people together to talk about how to get at this kind of economic development through an arts and cultural lens in a powerful way. So the first step that has to happen, the process is multiple steps. And what we always say to communities are two things. Firstly, there is no in this program. There's a not ready. So it may mean that it's going to take a little more time to develop some of the goals and strategies, but we don't essentially turn anyone down flat. There may be some work that needs to be done. And we, as I said, we support a city through the process, and we support them beyond whatever recommendation is made around the designation. So the first step is for the municipality to pull together a partnership of people interested in the cultural district. The municipality is the applicant for the cultural district. They hold the designation.
Right.
In the guidelines, we put in a provision that a third-party entity, like the collaborative effort you describe on the waterfront, could oversee and manage the district on behalf of the city. Because we knew that for some municipalities, they wouldn't want to, nor would they have the experience of working on this kind of agenda,
right.
And were too busy. So it was outside of their capacity at this point in time.
No, I think Plymouth has this.
Yes, they do.
Because I know there was mentioned several times at the meeting that there were several members there. I guess I don't know what they referred to it as, but I know there were people there who were on the, I guess, the cultural district committee.
Yes.
Yeah. So
about 50% of the districts are managed by this third-party entity, ranging from an art association in Gloucester, in Rocky Neck, in one of our oldest artist colonies, which made sense to us, to we have several chambers. We have some economic development organizations. We also have some marketing organizations, or in your case, an alliance of organizations that have come together to focus on getting some things done in a particular area of a city or town. So once that is in place, then I think it's really looking at the map, the physical map of the city, and being able to say, okay, so where's the hub? And then when you have the hub, what happens outside of that hub? And how do we want to talk about the hub? And then how do we want to create some linkage with what we call the outliers, the organizations that are not in that particular area, but stand to benefit by being involved and engaged. So it adds additional, if you like, capital to the whole agenda.
So if we think of the cultural district as sort of a hub, and then there are spokes.
Exactly.
It reaches out into the community, and then it creates, as I think we talked about this earlier, sort of this tight urban center where all this activity begins to happen, and again, it's critical mass, and again, additional assets begin to pop up.
Yes. So in looking at the map, it also gives you an opportunity to be able to include the artists that live and work in Fall River. They're sort of located either in the hub or outside of it. So that's worth thinking through, and and locating any creative businesses that are important, that may be within close proximity, and you actually might want to broaden the area slightly, or make it tighter than you might have done already. So that's the most important thing. I mean, again, to reference Concord, the Louisa May Alcott House is not in the hub of their main district, and yet it's an important partner. People know about Louisa May Alcott. They want to come to the house. That asset becomes an ambassador to the sort of hub, and vice versa. So there's a mutual benefit in that relationship, and we like to see that.
So, like in a case like Fall River, where the waterfront is somewhat a little detached from the downtown, even though it's not very far, but it certainly wouldn't be part of the original cultural district. But there are certainly lots of benefits to having a cultural district so close to a downtown area.
Absolutely.
Because of again, the proximity of the downtown. Exactly.
One of the things that's interesting from a visitor point of view is that visitors don't know where they're not meant to be. If you live in a place, we're the ones that tend to put boundaries around it.
Right.
We're the ones that say that that's too far. In fact, from a visitor's point of view, as long as they've got good information, they'll go someplace because they have an interest in visiting it or stopping. So the idea is to get them to park their car. That comes back to the sort of walkable, compact area. Park their car, leave it there, and participate in whatever is on offer for that for that week,
which is what a lot of millennials, like to do. And I think, there's of course a nationwide movement. Even my generation, or I assume your generation, the baby boomers, we like to do that. We like to park our car, walk around. There's a variety of different things that we can go to, and music and restaurants and shops, all in the same area.
Exactly.
And so, I think that's what the cultural district helps build.
Yeah. We say to people, try and think about how you would design an itinerary for somebody who turned up at 10 o'clock in the morning looking for a cup of coffee, all the way through to the concert that they just left at 10 o'clock at night, and everything in between. What would they be doing? It's almost like you go on vacation yourself.
Right.
And if you think about it from that perspective, then I think it helps you think about how you want to mix up and arrange that information, if you like, for a visitor who may not know the city that well, but are attracted because they've heard about something and have decided to come here. And for a resident, it's being able to, we're all really busy people, people are holding down jobs, they're taking care of their kids. It doesn't mean they're not looking for things to do. And so it's being able to put information in front of them saying, hey, come on down. There's something happening that your family will enjoy, or you'll enjoy.
And I think it's something you said there earlier I think is very important. It connects the cultural district in a particular community, connects that community with the rest of the state in a way that they may probably not have been connected prior to adopting the cultural district.
Yes, that's right. And then of course, where there's a cultural district and a cultural district in close proximity, there's an opportunity to cross brand, so that then you can have a regional approach to kind of thinking about the cultural district. So next door, where there's Fall River, and up the road, Plymouth, which isn't that far from Fall River, in the mind of a visitor who might kind of arrange their activities around the fact that they want to visit 2 or 3 cultural districts over a weekend. I think that's the key here, is the cultural districts helps organize activity for a visitor who's time crunched, who wants convenience, who wants a package, who's looking for an itinerary of things to be able to do in a way that's simple.
Well, I think you almost instantly become, something bigger than yourself.
Yes.
You're not just, you're not just Fall River, you're not just Plymouth, you're not just Barnstable.
Yes.
You're not just Concord. All of a sudden, you're something. You're part of something much bigger.
Absolutely, and we've reached, definitely in the state, we've reached that tipping point. And we have, for the 44 communities we have designated, we have about 35 in the pipeline.
Really?
Too, yes. I mean, the thing about Massachusetts, it's a small state. You can navigate the state relatively easily.
Right.
The transportation here by car is very good.
Right.
So you can get around. And we happen to have a very large number of cultural organizations, a large number of artists, and a large amount of more informal activity like our arts festivals and so on and so forth.
I think we all get parochial in terms of where we live, but of course down here in Fall River, we're sort of the southernmost part of the state. But you can go all the way up north outside of Boston. It's a very lively, active community. And the Berkshires, lots of things going on in the Berkshires, and that's really very accessible by across the Mass Pike. So, as you said, we're very connected in Massachusetts, and it doesn't so much matter if you're way out in the Berkshires, or if you're on the North Shore, or if you're down in Cape Cod. We are a very accessible state.
Absolutely, and if Fall River takes its place amongst the other cultural districts, it means that we'll almost have gotten every significant waterfront community.
The last link on this.
No, you're not. I've still got Quincy and Salem to go.
Oh, okay.
But it's
on the South Coast. We are
on the South Coast. Yeah. But on the South Coast, I mean, yes, I would say.
Good.
And there are smaller communities than Fall River that also have come forward as well. Again, it goes back to that sort of compact area. So to go back to process a little bit. So once everyone's happy with the map and they've kind of come up with all the assets that are on the map, which you've pretty much done at this point.
Right.
That's submitted to me. I review it, come back if I have any questions. And then once with that in place, then it's full steam ahead to complete the application. Now, there are several components to the application that must be in place. One is it has to be endorsed by the top official in the city. In this case, it would be the mayor.
The mayor.
Secondly, there has to be a vote by the city council. Interesting in Massachusetts, that debate in city council is sort of like a sport, really. And for this particular agenda, for this particular agenda, we've only had, of all of the districts that have had to do this vote, only one municipality had a not unanimous vote, and that was to do with an issue about parking. So, but that's that's phenomenal. I think that our
it's clearly for these municipalities to see the benefit.
Well, I think it's that they see it as a can-do agenda.
Right.
At the very least, or why not? They see it as a win for their residents, and they see it as a way of actually attracting additional visitors, and they understand that it's the sum of its parts, that it's Fall River, distinctively Fall River, and authentically Fall River, but then there's the opportunity to kind of hook up with some of the other districts, do some cross branding in a way so that it just becomes more affordable for a city to position itself if it's working collaboratively.
And there's really other than the approval process, but there's no real cost to the city.
No.
No.
The only cost of the city is putting up some signs at the edges of the district so people know they've arrived. And right now they stand at $144 a piece.
Yeah.
And you have to have a minimum of 4. Oh. So it's very low cost. Also, we offset that we give a small grant, an implementation grant, to a new district to get it started. Right. It's only $5,000, but it's a beginning, and we're working with the legislature to be able to increase that amount.
Well, I know we've talked about this several times over the last, I hate to even say it's been 5 or 6 years, I think, since we first originally spoke. But certainly the timing is right. Again, as we started to say, the waterfront is ready. It's right for this kind of program. I'm very hopeful that certainly the city is going to see the clear benefit that I even saw when I was on the city council several years ago in chair of economic development and tourism. I just don't know if there's any downside. It's only an upside. And for a city like Fall River, it's just I hate to even use the cliche, but it's sort of a no-brainer to me. So. Meri, I want to thank you for being here. It's a great explanation as to what the cultural district is, what it means to the city of Fall River. I know as a co-founder of Creative Arts Network, we're very, very excited about helping you and assisting you in promoting the cultural district here in the city of Fall River. We're going to have a meeting this afternoon down at the Maritime Museum. We're going to be talking to some of the stakeholders, and hopefully, I'm sure it'll be a real persuasive afternoon. And we can then speak about starting the process here in the city of Fall River. We're very anxious to do that. And I want to thank you.
No, not at all.
For coming down to Fall River, as you have done many times, and always thanking the Mass Cultural Council for their support and supporting arts, cultural tourism here in Fall River. So thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to conclude our program for today. I hope this has been informative. Hope you know a little bit more about what it takes and what it means to be cultural or have a cultural district, certainly in the city of Fall River. So again, we're very appreciative for Meri Jenkins coming down here as part of the Mass Cultural Council. If you want any more information about what we do at Creative Arts Network, we can go to our website. It's creativeartsnetwork.org. That's creativeartsnetwork.org. We have a terrific calendar up there. We have lots of information. If you want to support us, you can do that also. Everything is up on creativeartsnetwork.org. You can buy tickets for any of our events also on our website. And we hope that you will let people know exactly what we do here at the Creative Arts Network, and that is to revive arts and culture and tourism right here in the city of Fall River. So thank you. Until next time, and Meri, thank you. We'll see you later. And remember, good things happen in the city of Fall River.